Good morning, America. Breaking overnight, mass stabbing in Michigan.
I need units inside Walmart. Got multiple victims.
The huge police response when 11 people are stabbed inside a Walmart. Witnesses describing a horrifying scene as they scrambled for safety. The condition of the victims with the suspect taken into custody.
New overnight, plane evacuation. The terrifying moment passengers headed for emergency slides when an American Airlines flight out of Denver suddenly aborted takeoff. Smoke seen billowing from the plane, what the airline is saying this morning.
Life-threatening heat wave. More than 130 million Americans under alerts. The dangerous conditions for the eastern half of the country. Feels like temperatures hitting up to 115 degrees with little relief in sight, even overnight. Plus, how to know the difference between heat exhaustion or heat stroke and when to call 911.
Tariff talks. President Trump meeting with the president of the European Commission. Will it head off a transatlantic trade war?
Urgent search for an inmate with a violent criminal history released from jail by mistake. The same jail where 10 inmates escaped just months ago.
Teeing up the nostalgia. Adam Sandler's Happy Gilmore 2 joining a host of new movies like Fantastic Four,
We Will Protect You,
and Freakier Friday, where everything old is new again. Plus, Banana Ball Mania. The Savannah Bananas gearing up for their sold-out game against the Texas Tailgaters. We're live with this fun twist on America's pastime.
Live from ABC News headquarters in New York City, it's Sunday. Good morning, America.
Good morning, America. So great to have you with us. The guy in the stilts, it's like when Will Reeve walks into the studio. Just like towering over everyone. Like I thought I was tall too.
Similarly coordinated too.
That's right. Great to have you back at the desk this morning. And for Gio, we do have a lot to cover here, including President Trump's big trade meeting in Scotland with the president of the European Commission.
Also, right now, Israel opening up humanitarian corridors to allow aid convoys into the Gaza Strip to provide that much-needed food and supplies.
Yep, but we begin this morning with the mass stabbing attack at a Walmart in Michigan. The suspect now in custody. ABC's Ike Ajachi joins us with the latest. Good morning, Ike.
Good morning, Janae. Police say this mass stabbing inside a crowded Walmart that left 11 people hospitalized was sudden and random. Right now, 6 of the victims are fighting for their lives in critical condition, and 5 more are listed as serious. A horrific incident that shattered a routine Saturday evening. This morning, a community reeling after a horrific scene at a Walmart in northern Michigan. At least 11 people stabbed in what authorities are calling a random attack.
I need units inside Walmart. Got multiple victims.
First responders flooding the parking lot of this Traverse City Walmart just after 6 p.m. Saturday. Officials say the attack erupted near the store's checkout area and that the suspect, a 42-year-old male and Michigan resident who is now in custody, was armed with a folding knife.
There was blood everywhere. There was people kind of sitting at the ends of aisles, just bleeding.
Julia Martell was in the Walmart at the time, describing the terrifying moments inside as people scrambled for safety, fearing for their lives.
I heard screaming and I went towards the screaming and I saw the guy with the knife shove somebody. And after he shoved him, he was headed in my direction. I was right there. I saw the knife, but I got out of his way in time. And it seemed like all of the people who got stabbed and got attacked were people who couldn't physically get out of his way, like people in wheelchairs.
According to authorities, those attacked appeared random with no predetermined victims. Police say they quickly apprehended the suspect.
Be vigilant. Know that no area is immune to this type of activity, unfortunately. 11 is 11 too many, but thank God it wasn't more.
The Munson Medical Center confirming the 11 victims are being treated at their facility. Walmart releasing a statement saying violence like this is unacceptable and will continue working closely with law enforcement during their investigation. Now, right now, the Michigan State Police and the FBI are both working on site with local law enforcement to piece together the details of this incident, guys.
Just an awful scene. Ikejachi for us. Thank you. We appreciate it. Now to the frightening moments on board an American Airlines flight out of Denver. The pilot aborting takeoff, passengers seen evacuating the plane on inflatable slides. ABC's Olivia Rubin is here with the details. Olivia, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Whit. This was a terrifying moment for dozens of passengers aboard this Boeing 737 MAX that was headed to Miami. One passenger saying they heard a loud boom before takeoff, describing panic inside the cabin.
This morning, dramatic images capturing the terrifying moment passengers were forced to evacuate an American Airlines plane after issues with its landing gear.
23 is boarding on the runway. 3023, roger. 3023, you got a lot of smoke.
Miami-bound American Airlines flight 3023 was about to take off from Denver International Airport around 2:45 Saturday. Flight radar showing the plane moving at 146 miles per hour on the runway when it was forced to abort before liftoff.
I would estimate about 5 to 10 seconds before we were supposed to actually start flying. We heard a loud boom, and I said, that's not good.
Mark Serkis was on that flight, describing the chaotic scene to ABC News.
When the plane stopped, about 30 seconds later to a minute later, somebody said, smoke, fire. And then a lot of people, of course, started panicking.
The 173 passengers on board promptly evacuated, first responders rushing to the area. Serkis capturing these videos from the tarmac, people escaping from the emergency slide as smoke billowed from the plane. The airline saying one passenger was taken to the hospital with a minor injury and that the aircraft's issues involved one of its tires, adding, quote, all customers and crew deplaned safely and the aircraft was taken out of service to be inspected by our maintenance team.
The FAA says they're now investigating this incident, and those passengers were sent to Miami on a replacement flight. But guys, that one passenger, Mark, we spoke to, telling us he feels lucky this happened before takeoff. I would agree.
Sure. Yeah, Olivia, thank you for that. The thing you assume will never happen.
Exactly.
Did. We appreciate it. Now to the severe, life-threatening heat wave hitting the eastern half of the country, affecting more than 130 million Americans. Samara Theodore is here with the latest. Samara, good morning to you.
Good morning, Will. So many people will be impacted by this. And to think, the forecast today calling for triple-digit feel-like temperatures reaching as high as 115 degrees. Some parts of the Southwest have already been impacted by this heat, with rescues having to be done in states like Arizona.
This morning, over 130 million Americans feeling the effects of relentless heat as dangerous conditions rage for the eastern half of the country. In the Carolinas, temperatures reaching record highs. The heat index expected to reach up to 115 degrees for the second day in a row. That's what the real field temperature was at the Sweetgrass Festival in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, Saturday.
Stay hydrated, exercise due caution, get indoors when you can, take lots of breaks.
And along the state's coast, beachgoers flocking to the water, attempting to stay cool. In Arizona, the brutal temperatures forcing rescues for hikers throughout the state. The Scottsdale Fire Department rushing to save a woman experiencing heat exhaustion while hiking in the East Valley. And in Mississippi, the extreme heat causing this portion of Highway 49 to buckle. Amid the soaring temperatures, energy providers across cities upping output. Emergency rooms also seeing a spike as more and more patients are admitted for heat-related ER visits. New York City seeing close to 150 in the past few weeks. On average, nationwide, more than 67,000 admitted each year.
All right, so let's go ahead and find out if you are part of that 130 million that will be impacted by heat today. So take a look at this map. If your city is lit up in any of these colors, for example, heat advisories in orange there, 106 is what it'll feel like today in Little Rock. Many cities in the state of Florida could actually have record-breaking temperatures with actual highs reaching the triple digits. Extreme heat watches for places like Jacksonville, where it will feel like 110 degrees. And what makes this so dangerous is that it's really a compounded effect. We've got multiple days where we're feeling this type of heat. As far north as Richmond, Wednesday, you're headed to work or heading home from work rather, with feel-like temperatures at 103 degrees. The other thing I want to mention is the overnight lows not bringing much in the way of relief. A lot of these cities are really struggling to make it out of the 80s at night. And then we take a look at this. anyone who has purple on the board. That's from low country in Georgia into the Carolinas, even near Roanoke, Virginia. You are at a level 4 out of 4 for extreme risk when it comes to heat. That's the highest you can go. Very little overnight relief, and this affects anyone without effective cooling and hydration. So stay safe and hydrated out there. For now, Janae, back to you.
All right, important reminders there, Samara. Thank you. Now to President Trump overseas with tariffs on his agenda. ABC's Rachel Scott is traveling with the president in Scotland. Good morning to you, Rachel.
Hey, Janae, good morning to you. And the president's deadline for countries to make a deal with the United States on trade is August 1st. That is now just 5 days away. So here in Scotland today, the president will be taking a break from golfing to meet with the top official with the European Commission, as the president is now threatening a 30% tariff on the EU. As he departed the White House for Scotland, the president said there's about a 50% chance that some sort of deal is reached. But either way, the EU has already prepared plans to retaliate against the United States if they do move forward with that 30% tariff. All of that could raise the prices on everything from cars to cosmetics. On Monday, the president will also be meeting one-on-one with the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, to fine-tune the details of that framework of a trade deal that they reached on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Canada just a few weeks ago. But look, the administration is nowhere near those 90 deals they promised in 90 days. The president has already extended the deadline once before. It's unclear if he will do so again, but I will tell you, from talking to Republicans and sources in this administration, they are eager to move on from anything but that controversy surrounding convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Whit.
And we're going to dive into that right now. Rachel Scott for us, thank you. Let's bring in ABC's chief Washington correspondent, Jonathan Karl, who will be hosting This Week later on this morning. John, good morning to you. Always great to have you. Let's start with the Epstein saga, overshadowing in part President Trump's trip overseas. Many of his own supporters continue to push for the release of more documents. So what's at stake for him as he tries to turn the page?
Yeah, look, it's the issue that just won't go away, Whit. I mean, look what happened this week in the House of Representatives. Speaker of the House, Johnson, literally sent members of Congress home for the summer to avoid a series of votes that Republicans were going to join Democrats in forcing on the Epstein saga. These are votes that the White House simply didn't want, about releasing more of the documents. And then you had the extraordinary visit down to Florida by the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. This is Epstein's partner and former partner and co-conspirator. She's serving a 20-year sentence for sex trafficking, and she spent 2 days in closed-door meetings with the Deputy Attorney General. So even as President Trump wants to turn the page, says this is something nobody cares about, his own actions and the actions of some of his Republican allies have kept this story front and center, and it doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon.
And John, on that topic, you mentioned the DOJ holding those meetings with Ghislaine Maxwell. Any indication that President Trump is actually considering a pardon? Is that on the table?
Well, Whit, I mean, if you had just asked me that question, a week ago, I would have said no way. But President Trump has now been asked it a couple of times, a pardon or some kind of a clemency, commuting her sentence, and he hasn't ruled it out. It's an extraordinary thing. Now, look, senior advisors at the White House say there's been no real discussion of this. They don't anticipate anything like this coming. But the mere fact that he hasn't ruled it out, combined with the fact that Epstein's attorney has made it clear that she is very much interested in getting a pardon. And in fact, that appears to be part of her motivation in seeking this meeting with Todd Blanche down in Florida. Who knows? But it would be an extraordinary, to say the least, step by President Trump that would cause severe blowback. I can't imagine it's actually coming, but we can't rule it out because Trump himself hasn't ruled it out.
John Karl, as always, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And tune into This Week later on this morning. John speaks with Representatives Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie about their bipartisan push to force a vote on releasing more Epstein case documents. Plus, John also speaks with Save the Children's Gaza humanitarian director Rachel Cummings as aid groups warn of mass starvation in the Gaza Strip. Will?
Thank you, Whit. Now to some healthcare advocates who are sounding the alarm this morning. ABC News has learned that Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is considering firing members of a task force which offers guidance on preventive services, including cancer screening. ABC's senior White House correspondent Selena Wang is in Washington and has more on this story. Selena, good morning.
Hey, Will, good morning. And this is a really big deal. It could impact pretty much every American with health insurance. A source telling us that Health Secretary RFK Jr. is planning to fire every member of an influential task force that decides what preventive health services must be covered by insurance at no cost to patients. So that includes everything from cancer screening to HIV prevention. Now, Kennedy, the source says, plans to oust all 16 members for being, quote, too woke. A spokesperson for Health and Human Services says no final decision has been made. But this task force has been coming under fire from conservative activists. Last month, the Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of this task force, but ruled the health secretary has the power to remove its members at any time. Then soon after, the panel's July meeting was abruptly canceled, which alarmed some Democrats and public health leaders. Senator Patty Murray had this warning that in no world should experts be replaced with unqualified anti-science cronies of RFK Jr. who will make preventive health care more expensive and harder to get. This also comes after Kennedy, who is a longtime vaccine skeptic, removed every member of the Centers for Disease Control's Immunization Advisory Committee. The new panel, handpicked by Kennedy, is now made up of just 7 members, including some vaccine skeptics. So, guys, medical experts I've been speaking to say all of these changes create confusion and will ultimately negatively impact patients. Janae?
All right, Selena, thank you for that update. Now to Gaza, where Israel says it's begun airdropping food to Palestinians and starting a humanitarian pause so more aid can get to the region. ABC's Inez de la Cotara has more on that. Good morning to you, Inez.
Good morning, Janae. Yeah, and seemingly bowing to international pressure this morning, Israel implementing humanitarian pauses in 3 densely populated areas of the Gaza Strip, meaning fighting will stop there for 10 hours a day to allow for more aid to get to those civilians who so desperately need it. Overnight, the IDF also conducting an aid airdrop, dropping 8 pallets of aid, but aid agencies have repeatedly warned airdrops are the most inefficient way to get aid in. The head of the UN's aid agency calling the airdrops a distraction, saying they will not reverse the deepening starvation in Gaza. We've seen images of hungry crowds swarming aid trucks, thousands walking for miles for a single meal, 133 people dying of starvation so far, over half of them children, including 5-month-old baby Zainab, who died weighing less than when she was born, according to her mother. Throughout the war, Israel has severely restricted aid from getting into Gaza, and even when that aid does enter, distribution has become extremely dangerous. At least 12 more people killed overnight after the IDF allegedly opened fire near an aid distribution site, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Israel blames Hamas for the situation on the ground, saying they steal food, but hasn't provided sufficient evidence for those claims. The IDF now saying humanitarian corridors will be established. And after ceasefire negotiations appeared to have stalled, Secretary of State Marco Rubio now telling Fox News he's optimistic a ceasefire deal could happen any day now. Whit.
All right, Inez de la Cotera, thank you so much. We want to come back here at home. An urgent manhunt in New Orleans for an inmate who was mistakenly released from jail. Khalil Bryan was let out on Friday, but he wasn't supposed to be free. The sheriff says a clerical error is to blame. Officials reportedly confused Bryan with another inmate who has a similar last name. Bryan was facing charges for burglary, assault, and domestic abuse. Now, remember, this is the same facility that made headlines just months ago when 10 prisoners escaped.
Hopefully the weather stays good in Philly, because that's where we're headed now. We've got some Sunday fun with Banana Ball taking over Philadelphia this weekend. The hugely popular slapstick interpretation of the national pastime is where we find Will Ganss at Citizens Bank Park. Tonight, the Savannah Bananas are playing the Texas Tailgaters. Will, good morning to you, my friend.
Good morning, Will. Oh, yeah, the assignment of a lifetime continues for a day 2 today here in Philadelphia, now officially the most appealing city in the nation, as the Savannah Bananas and the Texas Tailgaters take over Citizens Bank Park here. Yesterday, by the way, a surprise appearance from Joey Chestnut, who showed up in the 4th inning to set a new world record, eating 14 banana dogs, which is a dessert dog. It's a caramelized banana with whipped cream and cherries, and he took on some of the Bananas here, who unfortunately couldn't keep up. But if you're going to lose to somebody in a competitive eating contest, I'm glad it was Joey Chestnut. It's all about entertainment, making this the most entertaining game in the world, and a lot of that comes from this guy right here, Maceo, who is the 3rd base coach and choreographer. I spent a day with you guys, and I was shocked to learn that the Bananas learn new choreography before every single game. How do you do it?
for one, follow the KISS method. So keep it simple. I always say silly. So I always make some choreography that I know that Maceo could do, but I decaffeinate it, all right, and water it down to where they look good doing simple movement, and all you gotta do is just have a good time, put on a good face, and put on a good show.
Amazing. And Vincent, I want to ask, being an umpire is a thankless job, and yet you are here doing it day in, day out. What's the best part of your gig as an umpire with the Bananas?
The fans. They bring the energy, and I bring the energy right back. It's a passion. I love what I do, and I love giving back to the fans that show up.
All right, real quick, we're going to do something we've never done before.
Yes.
It is the
GMA jump.
All right, let's do it real quick, real quick. We got 10 seconds. Here
Let's
we go.
Guys.
All right.
So what we got here? We got Bananas, and we got Maceo. Yeah!
Let's go! Bananas! Let's go!
And Linsey's still alive. That's good. Thank you so much, guys, and big thanks to this. Okay, the umpire getting in on it. Good Morning America continues in just a moment. We'll have details on staying safe in the heat, the symptoms to watch out for. Back in a moment.
There's a lot of talking going on while I sing my song. Yeah.
Welcome back to GMA on the Sunday morning. Beyonce goes out with a bang, wrapping up her whirlwind Cowboy Carter tour. Queen Bee left fans in awe on her final stop in Las Vegas. She stunned the crowd, bringing out members of Destiny's Child for a show-stopping performance.
Wow.
This marks the trio's first on-stage reunion in years. Wow. Her husband, Jay-Z, and country singer Shabuzi also lit up the stage, performing their hit songs with Beyonce. What a
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that crowd had a good show.
By the way, I saw Dr. Darian over here. We'll get to him later, but he was jamming right when he came out. He could not
saw her
help
on
himself.
that tour.
Yes.
That's what Beyonce does to people.
Exactly. All right. First, though, let's get to some of the other top headlines that we're following this morning. Cambodia and Thailand could soon work out a ceasefire deal after days of deadly clashes. President Trump says he called the leaders of both nations and they agreed to ceasefire talks. At least 32 people have been killed in the latest flare-up stemming from an ongoing border dispute.
The teenager charged in the deadly shooting at the University of New Mexico faced a judge for the first time. Police say 18-year-old John Fuentes opened fire inside of a dorm room Friday, killing a 14-year-old boy and wounding another person. He was arrested after an hours-long manhunt. A judge ordered Fuentes to remain in jail without bond. He's due back in court this week.
And several baseball legends will have their names permanently etched in the halls of history this afternoon. The Baseball Hall of Fame is inducting outfielder Ichiro Suzuki, ace pitcher CC Sabathia, reliever Billy Wagner, and the late, great Dave Parker and Dick Allen. Massive crowds expected up in Cooperstown as the star-studded class receives the highest possible honor in baseball. And our Michael Strahan will be there as a friend of CC Sabathia.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. What a list, too.
It's weird. You've experienced it. It's weird to get to the age where you grew up with the players.
I know, right?
But congrats. We do begin this half hour with the nostalgia taking over the box office. Familiar faces and characters attracting the crowds. And ABC's Zoreen Shaw says everything old is new again. They just keep making stuff that already worked once, right, Zoreen?
It really is. Well, good morning. The box office just took a walk down memory lane. 3 major sequels drew people in with familiar faces, familiar lines, and a heavy dose of nostalgia. Studios are banking on the past to score big in the present.
My name is Happy Gilmore.
Nearly 30 years later, Adam Sandler reprising his role as Happy Gilmore with that famous running swing in the Netflix sequel, Happy Gilmore 2. Back with some familiar faces like Ben Stiller.
Check out the name tag, grandson.
And a whole cast of new ones.
I am so sorry.
Give him here, I got some Gorilla Glue.
Including music superstar Bad Bunny as Happy's new caddy and sports superstar Travis Kelce. The original film was such a hit, it created a cult sensation and decades-long bonds with fans of Sandler and golf alike.
Incredible! The 4 of us will face the danger.
Marvel's The Fantastic Four First Steps, with its 1960s retro-futuristic world, introduces Marvel's first family.
We will protect you.
The reboot, focusing on themes of optimism, forced to balance their roles as heroes with the strength of their family bond, They must defend Earth from a space god called Galactus.
You have not only, the reboot, but you also have the beginnings of a new iteration for the Marvel Universe.
You've walked in each other's path. The filmmakers of Disney's Freakier Friday hoping to draw new fans. But also to bring back fans of the original, looking for a dose of nostalgia. 22 years after Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis first swapped bodies.
Oh no, not again.
The sequel is coming back with a new twist, a multi-generational body swap.
If you're me and I'm you, then who's that? I'm Grandma, sweetheart.
The fact that we're seeing characters that we already know, like Adam Sandler and Jamie Lee Curtis, coming back in movies tells us that we are never truly done. That we always are going to want more.
And we definitely want more. With Happy Gilmore 2 already topping Netflix's trending chart and Fantastic Four smashing the box office, Hollywood's message this weekend is clear. What's old is new and profitable again. Janae?
It certainly at least seems to be, Zareen. Thank you so much. Now to the big change ahead for Target shoppers. The retail giant ending its price matching policy. ABC's Rena Roy is here with those details. Good morning, Rena.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, probably not the best news to hear for all those deal hunters out there, right? And this new policy will be here soon. It goes into effect tomorrow. Target will no longer price match its competitors. So even if you find an identical product for less on Amazon or Walmart, it will no longer match that price. The store says it will only continue to price match between its own stores and online. A spokesperson saying, "We've found our guests overwhelmingly price match Target and not other retailers, which reflects the great value and trust in pricing consumers see across our assortment and deals." And it comes as Target deals with a slump in sales this year. The company cutting its full year sales outlook, saying that tariffs have been a factor. And the CEO has warned prices for certain goods will likely go up because of it. But look, getting rid of price matching is what most big box stores are doing these days. But some stores like Home Depot and Best Buy still do it.
There was something so satisfying about bringing out the price and be like, well,
I have here.
I saw this,
Look where I got it
in the Sunday paper. So sign of the times, I suppose.
End of an era.
Thank you, Rena. Appreciate it.
Now to some help in beating the heat as that intensive heat wave settles in. It's important to know when it can turn into a life-threatening situation. And joining us is ABC News medical correspondent Dr. Darian Sutton. Thanks for being with us. So, Dr. Sutton, people can find themselves dealing with heat exhaustion and the more serious heat stroke. So help us understand the difference.
Yeah, well, Janae, there's nearly more than at least 130,000 emergency room visits each and every year. That's likely an underestimate, as ER doctors, myself included, see many of the complications: high blood pressure, heart failure, severe dehydration. So important to pay attention to those first symptoms of heat exhaustion. That's when your body's internal thermostat begins to have difficulty maintaining temperatures on these hot days. And it can present as headache or dizziness, as our brains are very sensitive to even small changes in temperature, and profuse sweating and thirst. But as your body's thermostat begins to have failure, that leads into heat stroke, and that's what we call end organ damage. And the reason why that happens, or one of the main reasons, is because blood rushes to our skin. That causes us to feel flushed, but that leads blood away from our vital organs, our brain, our heart, and our kidneys, and that is what leads to the complications. And sometimes you can see sweating, but as I was discussing during the break, for some patients, sweating has stopped because dehydration has begun so severe that then patients present with hot, dry skin. All of these symptoms you have to pay attention to as an emergency.
Yeah, that's an emergency. Call 911.
Absolutely.
But what can you do in the meantime?
Yeah, well, call 911, number one. Wet clothing, evaporative heat, so you want to get some fans, and that helps to get the heat off of that patient. And then you want to place ice packs like an ER doctor. We normally place them on the forehead. You want to place them near the biggest blood vessels, the neck, the armpits, the groin. That's when you're having that emergency. That's when you get that person out of the heat, and of course you call 911. And
that's how to treat heat stroke, but how do you prevent it in the first place?
You know, paying attention. We talk about the weather reports, and I think it's so vital because when you see that heat index creep above 90, Samara was talking about feeling like it's 115 degrees. Above 90, when it starts to feel like that, that's when that humidity rises. That's when our sweat response stops working because sweat doesn't evaporate, and then that is what leads people to having increased risk of heat stroke. You want to make sure to pay attention to cooling centers. Check on our grandparents especially. They can be especially susceptible to heat stroke, those who are pregnant, and then more importantly, those who are on medications, many people do not realize that can tamper with your internal thermostat, exposing you to at risk. So blood pressure medications as well as antidepressants, all of these medications can increase your risk. Number one importance, being aware and making sure that you're prepared.
Such important information, especially when we're in this long stretch of heat like we're dealing with right now. Dr. Darian, as always, appreciate it. Coming up here on Good Morning America, our group chat, the stories and images that got us thinking this week. All right, we are back now with our GMA group chat, topics that struck a chord with us this week. And Janae, you're starting us off.
Yes, I am. So for me, it was the death of Malcolm Jamal Warner that really stuck with me throughout the week. Of course, we remember him from The Cosby Show and Malcolm and Eddie and so many different things from his professional life. But it's the circumstances surrounding his death, drowning in Costa Rica while on vacation, going for a swim with his 8-year-old daughter, obviously having kids, loving to go on vacation, thinking about how relaxed and how you let your guard down on vacation, and just a reminder of when you are somewhere that you're not familiar with, unaware of what the ocean in that place can be, and just how you have to keep your guard up. And it was just a really tough reminder. And you feel so awful for his family. So that one stuck with me.
Do you think you'll research more going into these?
I think that'll
places?
Probably limit oceans on vacation.
Yeah.
Because it's the kind of thing where you don't know, you're not familiar with that water or what may have happened the week before when you're going somewhere. Right. So just honestly limiting it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. For me, I'm a big golf fan. It's like how I like to spend a lot of my free time. I love watching it, playing it, whatever. I was really struck by Scotty Scheffler's comments. He won the Open Championship last week. He's the best golfer in the world by a mile. But to be that good, normally you have to be obsessive about the thing and about doing it. And he is, but he said in his remarks that it's not his #1 priority. He said it better than I could. Take a look, and then we'll talk about it after.
I'm blessed to be able to come out here and play golf, but if my golf ever started affecting my home life or it ever affected the relationship I have with my wife or with my son, that's going to be the last day that I play out here for a living. This is not...
Just an unusually candid and insightful response from the best player in the world. It got me thinking about, we're all ambitious people. All of you are ambitious people out there. But how do you balance your pursuit of greatness in whatever it is that you do versus what might be most important to you? Are those the same? Are they different? How do you manage it? And I was very impressed by how he does it.
And how they change as your world evolves too.
Absolutely.
I think those comments were relatable on so many fronts. Also, when you're the #1 golfer, it's...
how annoying is it for everybody else?
Exactly.
Right? All about your kids and you're better than us. Oh.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a little bit of a turn with this one because a lot of people were buzzing on social media. Take a look at some pictures here. Remember Borat? Borat, remember?
Yes.
Well, apparently he is, there's Borat. Well, now he is jacked. Sacha Baron Cohen, the amazing transformation. So take a look at this. This was the cover of Men's Fitness UK. He buffed up for his role as Mephisto in the MCU as a part of the series Ironheart on Disney+. Wow. So he called himself a middle-aged man who replaced beer with protein shakes. He also initially said that he used Ozempic, but later said that he was joking and just paid a trainer a lot of money to get into this kind of shape. But but very nice. Very nice. A lot of people buzzing about that.
Replacing the beer with protein shakes.
That usually helps a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, we were talking about that a little bit
I feel like you got to do more than that.
Yeah.
And he did, and I actually, I'm...
You're that jacked.
No. But being into fitness, I can appreciate people who can do these transformations and put themselves to the test to see what they can do later in life.
I'm glad that we got a jacked, shirtless person on the show,
that's right.
even with Gio not being here.
He also... That's true. That's true. I think there may have been a waxing involved as well, beyond just the gym.
Back now with our play of the day and some life-saving measures at the beach. This is a heartwarming story with a happy ending, we promise. There's a baby dolphin found itself stranded on the rocky jetty of a beach just north of Miami. And then the Miami-Dade Ocean Rescue lifeguards were on the scene. The dolphin looked injured, maybe struck by a vessel of some kind. There's lots of boats out there. But the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission took the dolphin under its care, looking to release it back into the wild once it recovers. That is a happy story. Every animal.
Sweet little baby dolphin.
Yeah, exactly. Coming to the rescue. We love that. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. Will, it was great to have you in once again this
Always
weekend.
great to be here. Lots of laughs and good times on and off camera.
Definitely.
Yeah. We've got more on ABC News Live. I'll be over there. Tomorrow you'll be with me. That's right. All right. More news coming your way. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.